in asthma and allergic conditions in patients of all ages. Before opening Family Allergy and Asthma Care of Montana, he served as a full-time faculty member at the Medical College of Wisconsin and was active in patient care and teaching. He's been recognized as one of the top doctors of America for the past 13 years, as well as a top doctor of Milwaukee. He graduated from the Medical College of Milwaukee and has served as a clinical professor at the University of Colorado School of Medicine, in addition to running his private practice. Dr. Zacharisen also serves as an anaphylaxis community expert, which is one of the programs that is hosted by Allergy and Asthma Network to raise awareness and preparedness for responding to anaphylaxis. And again, we are so honored and privileged to have Dr. Zacharisen speak to us this evening on the hidden dangers in food service. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Zacharisen, and again, welcome.
Good evening. Thank you, Tanya. I appreciate that introduction, and welcome everybody who is online tonight. Thank you for taking this time out of your evening to spend the next hour talking about latex allergy, and in particular, some of the concerns and dangers that we find in food service. Let's just advance the slide. Okay, I think this next slide has already been reviewed, but again, I want to thank Allergy and Asthma Network, as well as the American Latex Allergy Association, and our sponsor, Mylan, the makers of the EpiPen and the EpiPen Junior. I have no conflict of interest in this presentation, and as Tanya nicely pointed out my background, and here it is more in pictures, and I'd just like to, again, point out that I do work as a professional advisor to the American Latex Allergy Association and was trained as an anaphylaxis community expert. So again, it's my pleasure to be here. So, and what's the overview of what we're going to talk about tonight? I'll do a little background on latex allergy, not as much as last night, the presentation by Dr. Kelly, but we'll talk about just briefly the types of reactions that can occur with latex exposure. We'll talk about who is at risk to develop a latex allergic reaction. Then we'll go on and look at what are those exposures in restaurants that we need to be on the lookout for. We'll briefly go over the latex fruit allergy syndrome. Then I'll talk about a few of the legislative advancements that have been seen in latex allergy, very important topic. And then most important, I think we'll talk about management. What are some tips that we have for patients or families of patients as they maneuver through the maze of what to do in different restaurants? And then a little information on the education for food service staff who are trying to serve our patients in a safe manner. So a little bit of background. Natural rubber latex allergy has been around for many decades, but really over the past 20 years has it risen to the surface and caused much panic in many individuals and severe allergic reactions in many individuals. But we can really break it down into two types of allergic reactions. The delayed type hypersensitivity, so that's the DTH, and this would be more of the allergic contact dermatitis, rashes from contacting natural rubber latex. Now this is not due to the latex itself, but instead it's due to chemicals that are used as accelerators or antioxidants when the natural rubber latex is being processed. And you can see the different chemicals used here, the thiorams, the mercaptobenzothiazoles, and the carbamates. This type of testing can be done using a patch test on the back. Now tonight we're going to be more talking about the immediate type 1 or IgE mediated allergic reactions. These will be manifested as hives on contact, allergic rhinitis, nasal symptoms, asthma, or in some cases severe allergic reactions known as anaphylaxis. So who who is at risk or has latex allergy? Well, if we break it down by risk group, there's certain groups that are at very high risk. The first group is healthcare workers. So between 8 and 17% of healthcare workers have latex allergy. And this is believed to be due to the high rate of exposure to natural rubber latex powdered gloves back in the 1990s. Another group of patients at high risk are those children with spina bifida. So almost over 2/3 of children with spina bifida have latex allergy. And it appears that their risk comes from having repeated exposure to latex during surgeries or instrumentation with latex catheters, etc. And in fact, anybody with multiple surgeries appears to be at higher risk for a latex allergy. And then if you think of the general population in the United States, it's pretty uncommon. Less than 1% of the general population is affected by latex allergy. But still, even that less than 1% accounts for about 3 million people. So with that in mind, how often are these latex exposures? What's the risk for going to a restaurant and being exposed? Well, if we take 3 million patients and knowing that Americans eat out about 5 times a week, now that would be breakfast, lunch, or dinner. This is according to a survey of consumer behavior from a couple years ago. Then we have 3 million people at 5 times a week. So that would be about 15 million potential restaurant exposures each week. And the question is, are our restaurants ready for this? And again, I will not go through any more math tonight. Okay, so the next question, an important one, is can latex protein be found in foods? And I wish we could open this up to the group, but essentially I've posed some questions here. Yes, they can. No, maybe, I don't know, or no opinion. It sounds like something with a political campaign. Well, the answer is yes. In fact, latex protein can be what we call a hidden food allergen. And this data here was published by Dr. Don Beeshold back in 2000 in Allergy and Asthma Proceedings. And essentially what he found is that latex gloves worn during food preparation can shed latex proteins into the food in amounts that are large enough to cause reactions. So how did he develop this conclusion? Well, he took sliced cheese, touched it with a rubber gloved finger, and then by using a modified immunoblot method, so kind of an immunologic test, was able to detect latex protein that was transferred directly onto the cheese itself. In a similar fashion, he took rubber latex gloves, handled lettuce with them, and then took that lettuce that had been handled, ground it up, extracted it, and measured latex protein from that extracted liquid, and was in fact able to identify latex proteins. So the answer is yes. Just touching cheese, touching lettuce is enough to transfer latex protein. Are there other case reports of latex-contaminated food? Well, I found this particular article was published in the Journal of Allergen Clinical Immunology about 12 years ago. And in this case, it was from Spain. A patient had an anaphylactic reaction after ingesting a cream-filled donut that was contaminated with latex. So it's not very common, but it can happen. And I think that we have to always understand that even if there are not many reported cases in the literature, it does not mean that they have not been happening. Many times it's just not reported. So what other allergy exposures can happen in the restaurant other than latex gloves on food? Rubberized handles on kitchenware. It's easy to hold on to. Spatulas. Previously, they used to be more latex rubber. Now, primarily silicone. Silicone is more resistant to chemicals and grease and temperatures. But also jar openers. Those flat, kind of the little bumpy ridges on those round, usually jar openers. Most of those are latex. Also, even if it's not back where the cook is or the chef, think about the party room, the banquet room, places where there's been rubber, natural rubber balloons, another source of latex allergy. Okay, let's move on to the second major problem other than latex gloves and latex kitchenware, and that would be the latex fruit syndrome. So this is actually fairly common. There are cross-reactive proteins in latex that are shared with various fruits or vegetables or nuts. And these cross-reactive proteins are identified as HEV-B8 and HEV-B12. Now, HEV-B stands for Hevia brasiliensis, and that's the rubber tree, and it's the protein number 8 and number 12. Now, the different foods are broken down into a degree of association or prevalence. In other words, is there a high degree of association, a moderate, and then the third category is low or indeterminate. I left that particular category off. But those 4 foods that have a high degree of prevalence with latex allergy are banana, avocado, chestnut, and kiwi. The foods right below that have a moderate association or prevalence would be apple, carrot, celery, papaya, potato, tomato, and melons. And again, this is just a short list. There's a long list of other case reports where there may have been another food that cross-react with a latex allergic patient. So the importance of these would be that in that restaurant, even if they're not using latex gloves, even if there are no balloons and the kitchenware is latex-free, a latex allergic patient is also very commonly a food allergic patient. And in that case, they need to take the same precautions as a food allergic patient. Okay, let's move to this question. Which states have passed laws regarding latex exposures in restaurants? So the questions are, is it all of them, is it none of them, or some of them? Well, let's look. There's actually about five states, and let me just walk you through this real briefly. In New York, the state assembly passed a bill requiring that any restaurant that uses latex gloves needs to provide a written notice to the consumers. And this notice will read, latex gloves are used by the staff in preparation and conveyance of food in this establishment. If you are allergic to latex products, please take the appropriate precautions. So a written notice. How about in Massachusetts? They added that latex gloves are banned from every food service business, and that any establishment not in compliance can be assessed a fine of up to $100. So there's a little more penalty involved in this particular one in Massachusetts. In Oregon, the use of latex gloves is banned in food service facilities. In Arizona, they updated their requirements for food safety in restaurants, adding that for those ready-to-eat meals where you just kind of peel and eat, non-latex gloves or utensils must be used. And in Rhode Island, latex gloves have been banned in food service and stores that are licensed by their Office of Food Protection. So we have about 5 states that have enacted legislation to help protect our latex allergic patients. So this is really important. Okay, so these are kind of the big bullet points that we need to remember when managing a patient who has latex and or food allergies. Because there is no cure for latex allergy or food allergy for that matter, avoidance is still the most important, and that means identification, and that means preparing, in this case for a night on the town or dining out. The second bullet point is early recognition of symptoms. So severe anaphylactic reactions, or I should say allergic reactions that are not identified early and treated early, have the potential to develop into severe anaphylactic and life-threatening allergic reactions. With that in mind, immediate treatment is what's important, and that treatment should be with self-injectable or auto-injectable epinephrine. That's the first line treatment. And then finally, it's important to call 911, get the patient to the hospital for an evaluation in the emergency room, as it's possible that a delayed or biphasic reaction could occur. So these are the major points. So what are some tips for our restaurant goers here? I think one of the important things that we can do now is we can check on the website. We can check a restaurant, see what their menu is, see if they make any notice or notification about latex or their ability to manage food allergies. And I think you'll see it towards the end that there is a place where on the web where patients can help find allergy-safe restaurants. Now, if it's not on the web, call ahead. Pick up the phone before you go, and there's a number of questions you can ask. And these are similar to the questions you can ask for regular food allergies. But this is what I would recommend. First, do you use latex gloves in food preparation? And I think if the answer was yes to any of these, it would be prudent to move on to the next restaurant. Second of all, do you use latex-containing utensils in the kitchen? Or third, are there rubber balloons in the restaurant? Have they had parties there, for example, recently? And then finally, discuss the menu if you have the coexisting food allergies, the banana, kiwi, avocado, etc. It'd be nice to find that restaurant where you can work with the chef, you can work with your your server to get the information and have a safe and relaxing meal. Now, what are some risky restaurants? What are the ones that you kind of have to watch out for? Well, from a food allergy standpoint, buffets. The primary problem here, or potential problem, is cross-contamination. So it can happen very, very often, especially with multiple people going through cross-contamination from dish to dish. The other possibility is prepackaged foods. With those, you may not know where they were prepared, and there's really no way to remove the allergen in a safe way. So it can't be made fresh if it's already prepackaged. Restaurants that frequently use the ingredients that people with latex allergy have. So if it's a restaurant that commonly uses banana, kiwis, or avocados, you may want to think twice. And then finally, when it comes to the balloons, natural rubber latex balloons are inexpensive and fun during parties, but not good if there's going to be a latex allergic patient there. Mylar balloons, on the other hand, are safe. All right, here's another question for our audience. What do these restaurants pictured here have in common? Okay, so we have Arby's, we have Burger King. I know the answer's out there. The answer is these are two of the restaurant corporations that have enacted a latex-safe policy. And as you can see here, there's a nice list of restaurants. Again, these are corporations, not individually family-owned restaurants, but they have taken the commitment to become latex safe for their diners. So Mackenzie River Pizza, for example, Quiznos, Denny's, Red Lobster, the Outback Steakhouse, Red Robin, Arby's, Subway, Burger King, Bahama Breeze, Smoky Bones, Domino's Pizza, Cracker Barrel, and interesting, even Disney World and Disneyland. Now this is great. It's really good to know this, but there's a caveat, and that's in orange down there. This is a good guideline, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that particular restaurant is in compliance. So you're still going to want to take that extra step, talk to the manager, and make sure that they are following their corporate guidelines. But I think this is a huge step, and I'm hoping that this list will grow. Okay, so are there resources for restaurant workers to learn more about allergies? So we have resources for patients, for parents, for families, for physicians, but what about for restaurant owners, restaurant managers, restaurant employees? They're the ones that also need to be aware and careful and knowledgeable about allergies. Primarily food allergies, but it'd also be nice to know about latex allergy as well. So the question is there some resources? Yes or no? There should be, that is for sure. And there are. So the National Restaurant Association, the NRA, in conjunction with the Food Allergy Research and Education group, has developed resources for restaurants. And there's several of them. These are national training programs. You can see the websites below, so servesafe.com and safefair.org. At these websites, there's information about online training courses, and they cover many, many different situations that occur in restaurants, not just food allergies. They talk about keeping certain foods cold, how to handle eggs, how to mix things that are safely, cross-contamination, identifying allergic reactions, a whole variety of information is there. So, and on the website I checked today, the cost of an online course for these is $22. So it's something that is important and I would say affordable. Okay. So it's time for our patient or our family to head off to the restaurant. What should we have on our checklist? What should we not forget? Well, I think the first thing is, well, carry your auto-injectable epinephrine. It's important to have 2 devices. Sometimes a second injection is necessary for a delayed reaction. Second of all, have your medical ID bracelet in case you don't have the ability to communicate your reaction. Bring your chef card. We'll talk about that. And then also, if necessary, you can even carry a letter from your allergist stating what your latex allergy status is, what the potential is for a severe reaction. So let's look at these. Okay, this is a photograph of a medical identification bracelet that doesn't look like the old-fashioned metal chain. So this particular one was obtained from Lauren's Hope at the website seen there. But there are many different stores and online stores that offer medical ID bracelets. There are some for children or more geared towards children like Allerbling and Allermate, and then a number of them for adults. ID on Me, Medic Alert, and then as you see Lauren's Hope. So it's something that people were more likely to wear, and you can see it still has the important information there. And then there's the auto-injectable epinephrine, the first and most important treatment for a severe allergic reaction. There's 2 common devices that are now available. As you'll notice at the bottom, it says neither devices contain latex, so that's important. So you don't have to worry about latex being within your EpiPen or your AviQ. So let's talk about the AviQ. AviQ is a fairly new device. It is, of course, epinephrine. It comes in 2 different dosage strengths, a 0.15 milligrams and a 0.3 milligrams. AviQ stands for audio visual cues, and essentially this device speaks to you. So it has a speaker, and just like those AEDs that you use for somebody who's having a heart attack, and they talk out loud to instruct you what to do, that's what the AviQ does. So once you pull it out of its little case, it automatically starts to talk. It's administered into the outer part of the thigh muscle, right through clothing, just like the EpiPen, and like I said, it has the same dosing. On the other hand, EpiPen, which is brought to us by Mylan Specialties, has been around for about 25 years, and it too is easy to use. It doesn't talk to you, but there's instructions right on the device. You essentially pull the blue cap off the top, you hold the device in your fist, and you take a short little swing at that large outer thigh muscle and hold it for 10 seconds. very good products, and I think that's something that everybody should actually be more comfortable that they have self-injectable epinephrine rather than worry about the potential side effects. Yeah, you'll get a little tremor, your heart rate will go a little faster, but EpiPen and Auvi-Q can be life-saving if given early on in a severe reaction. Again, they both come as 2 packs. What about a chef card? I thought this was quite the clever idea. This is brought to us by the Food Allergy Research and Education and can be found at foodallergy.org. It's a PDF that you can customize just for your own allergies, and you can see on the page there it puts I have severe food allergies. In order for me to avoid a life-threatening reaction, I must avoid all foods that contain. And then for purposes of illustration, I typed in kiwi, banana, avocado, latex products. This is something that I think will help with the communication between the patient and the chef. Because how many times have you gone into a restaurant, the server is busy, the waitress or waiter is trying to cover many tables at a time, you're trying to explain to them what foods you need to avoid, why you need to avoid it, and the question is that information being conveyed to the chef or the cook in the same manner that you conveyed it to the server? And then rather than trying to try to do it verbally each time, I think this is a very good way to get that information back. They take it to the chef, and then they bring it back to you so you can keep it. Again, I think it's something that may be underused.